Hey, what's up? This is Kevin from Kevin's Barbecue Joints, and this one's awesome. It is with Erica Roby. You might know her as Blue Smoke Blaire. And just to start this off, if you're listening to this on the podcast side, I'd jump over to the YouTube side because I don't think I've interviewed anyone that smiled as much as she has. And it's engaging and wonderful and infectious. And so that alone, if you're having a bad day, watch this. You'll definitely enjoy this, and you'll enjoy her journey. Her journey takes her from Ohio to New Jersey to law school to being a public defender to California for wine school to Arkansas for the test to become a sommelier. She is a sommelier, which in its own right is amazing. She used that wine knowledge to work at a restaurant in Oakville and in Napa, then moved down to San Diego when that winery closed. Met her husband, who she has a child with, and it was during that time that she made the transition to barbecue. As she was just talking to her father about barbecuing, he wanted to open a food truck. She ended up taking a class by Harry Sue, and that propelled her towards the competition side. And through that, she ended up connecting with the Food Network and found herself on a show called Masters of Q. Oh, and by the way, she won this. She was on Team Bobby Flay, and she won Master of Q, which is just so killer. And through that, because she was getting more noticed and she was getting more notoriety, she wanted to use that for good and to spread the love of small restaurants and small barbecue joints. And that's how she got connected to the Smoke Sheet, Ryan and Sean at the Smoke Sheet, and Connor at On3 Media. And I have a list here I wanted to find out because coming up this summer are episodes of The Pit Stop with Blue Smoke Blaire, and they focused their trip recently on Houston, and this is an entree to get to know who Erica is, and she touches on at the end about that trip to Houston. And I wanted to note, I'm going to be reading off a piece of paper, the core group of people that were on that trip, because this was a massive trip, and if you follow them on social media or go back through their social media, you could see all the different places that they stopped at, 17 barbecue joints. But the core group was the guys from the Smoke Sheet, Sean and Ryan, as well as Y Chan, Amanda Rummel, and Alan Rummel. I hope I'm pronouncing their name correctly. Then joining them was Catherine and Justin Myers from Born Brand Hot Sauces, Josh Swoop, who's also known as at Pops Post if you follow him on Instagram, Tom Wynn, who everyone probably knows as Hirotoshi Mugen, I think is his last name. I interviewed him and I can't even pronounce his last name. I apologize. Gabe Ramirez was also known as Cold Hearted Barbecue. Aki Kinnunen, who I'm pronouncing his last name terribly. He's from Finland. He has a barbecue place called Miller's in Finland. He was working at Fijis at the time. John and Brenda Brotherton, JC Reed, Nick Rama, and Lance King. They joined them at a couple spots. So it was a lot of Erica mentions a lot of crossover, people coming in, kinship, fellowship, and then also Darren Lafferty, who is white beer photographer and also works with Connor on Casa Good Told. He and his wife joined them for a few spots, as well as Joey Garcia. And document this and filming this and making sure everything was right was Connor Moran, who is putting together the pieces that they'll be releasing this summer. So that's long and winded, but I wanted to name all those people specifically because it just shows what the barbecue family is all about. So I will stop this and I will jump right into the interview with Erica. You're going to love it. You're going to learn a whole lot about her. So that way, when you do watch the episodes of the Pit Stop over the summer, you'll know more about her. So if you're enjoying these, please subscribe. That way you don't miss out. I have a website at kevinsbbqjoints.com. But in the end, stay safe and visit your local barbecue joint. Good morning. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. It's so good to talk to you. And it's, first off, you're definitely someone that I've wanted to talk to for a while because of your enthusiasm and you're inspiring and your smile. It's contagious, and in this day and age, we need all that. We need
right?
all the levity and not taking ourselves seriously all the time, like doing serious things, but realizing that life. So how are you right now? How's your mindset right now?
I'm good. Like things have just really been panning out. So I'm just like, okay, like it's working. Things are starting to fall into place. Like your hustle and your perseverance, it's paying off.
I'm
feeling good.
Sometimes it doesn't feel like it is, and it's how so okay, you're first off, are you in Dayton, Ohio, and are you from Ohio?
I'm in Yellow Springs, Ohio. It's right outside of Dayton. And yeah, this is where I'm from. I went to college here. Okay. So elementary school. Yes.
Do you know where London, Ohio is?
I do.
Okay. I have a good friend from that I've known since I was 14. She always said, I'm from London, Ohio. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I think I have a few exes from there. So
Up for you.
Won't be going anytime soon.
Okay, so you're not going, but she can go if she wants to go. I'll send her this video so that way she
Most
she can
wanted.
see
Like, right?
somebody. She's like, I know some of that. She moved. Her family moved a long time ago out to to Los Angeles. But so
Oh, lucky her. Wow.
what was it like growing up in Ohio? What is Ohio like for most people that haven't been to Ohio?
Yeah, so it's so weird, but like growing up, like there was always the Air Force base. My parents were Air Force, so that's why we got brought here. It was just like simple. I can't explain it more than like it is ultimate Midwestern here. And I guess I kind of took it for granted. Like people are they're very straightforward. They're very like work hard, be a good human, be nice to people. Like it's always been like that. And lots of country folk and stuff like that. And then now, after coming back, because I couldn't wait to leave, of course, I was like, I'm going to the big city. I'm going to do this. I'm never coming back to Ohio. And then all of a sudden I realized after traveling everywhere, like, I love
It's
Ohio
different.
and I miss Ohio people. But now there's a lot of industry coming here. There's so much stuff that wasn't here when I was a kid or even when I was in college.
That makes sense.
And so now we're getting like people from outside. So now we're getting like good restaurants and there's traffic. There's never been traffic. Like,
and what is traffic for you?
Yeah, like the worst. Oh, it's definitely no traffic like what you have. But like the worst thing you could ever get is like you were stuck behind a tractor or you got stuck behind like a horse and buggy. But now there's actually like traffic, there's no parking. And
You've been stuck behind a horse and buggy before in your life? I've never been stuck behind.
Are you serious? You haven't?
Never, no. Only like in movies have I seen that.
No, so like a little bit about an hour outside of where I was raised, that's the Amish community.
Amish, yeah, that's what I was assuming.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like that's no thing for me. Like I see a horse and a buggy, I don't think anything. I'm just like,
did you guys ever go? This is so off topic, but did you go there to get wares and things like because I know people get blankets and furniture,
everything. The best fried chicken you'll ever have. Like amazing. So they have auctions for items, they have sales you can get. I mean, I've literally gotten everything from the Amish. Furniture is amazing. If you get real Amish furniture, if you buy a piece, it'll never break on you, and you'll have that for generations, like legit.
That's neat. Well, that's reason enough. But is Ohio the Amish country? Like, is most Amish country in Ohio? Like, this is so.
I think it's Pennsylvania.
That's like what it is. Yeah, that's why it's over my head.
Ohio. Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's it. So when you said you went to the big city, what was the big city for you? Where was the big city?
Yeah. So the first big city, I went to Camden, New Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia. Okay. And so that was a huge culture shock for me. I was just like, what? I walked to school one time and there was gang members on the street. And so I'm just like, and they like start blinking at me all weird. And I'm like, why are they blinking at me? And then I realized like he has like his gang tattoos on his eyelids. And he's like, I guess he was threatening me or something. I had no idea. But so I freaked out. I ran all the way to law school. And then I was like trying to get people to get me a ride to go back to my apartment because I was so scared. And then like I told my mom, like I was like, I think I got marked for death.
For death. Yeah.
I was like, I don't even know if I can like go to school anymore because I can't walk there. I was like picking out what I wanted at my funeral. Like
wow, what a reaction you had. Did you ever see that person ever again? Did you ever?
I never saw him again, but like, I did see him one time, but I saw like a bunch of others. And then I used to volunteer at the courthouse. So I would walk to the courthouse too. And there was always like this line in front of the store. So I'm thinking to myself, I thought it was a grocery store. So I'm like, people are lining up like every day that I'm out there because they're getting their groceries, whatever. And it wasn't until a year later I found out it was a methadone clinic. And I'm just like, I was like, oh my God, like this is not Ohio. I'm not in Ohio.
No.
I'm not in Ohio anymore. But I got like battle tough. And
that's important. It's important that you experience that. Did you from there, Because did you want to, is that what you wanted to become, was an attorney or?
Yeah. So I was like, after college, it was, my parents were like, either med school or law school. You have your choice of those two. Because at first I was like, no, I want to be a news reporter. Then I was like, no, I want to run a restaurant and stuff like that. And they're like, nah, girl, you need to make some money.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That sounds typical parents, yes.
Yeah, but it was really good because seeing all that and living in Camden, New Jersey, and just like understanding, a whole different side of the US and the world, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do public interest. I'm going to do criminal defense. And because I did that in law school, I represented juveniles and I saw how they got railroaded.
Yeah.
And I experienced, like, personally, I experienced the injustice because I was fighting for these kids. And, all kids make mistakes. Psychologically, their brain isn't even fully developed yet.
Yeah.
And I saw that, like, these judges, the prosecutors,
And to navigate the legal system is.
Yeah, and like
pressure.
these kids would show up to court by themselves, no parents, no support, no family, no nothing.
Oh my God.
And so I was just like, no, I'm like, what can I do to fix this or make this better? Like, how can I fight for these children? How can I do that? So it gave me a lot of empathy. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to do corporate law. I don't want to do any of that stuff. If I'm going to be a lawyer, like, I'm going to fight and I'm going to stand up for kids and try to help them, like, get off the path that they're on. So after that, then it was like 2008 when I graduated, and like the world was in like the financial collapse.
One of the things we've lived through. Yes, that was.
And that was right when I was graduating. So now I'm like studying for the bar exam. I moved down to Miami, Florida. I have tons of family there. So it was super exciting. Me and my cousin, my little 18-year-old cousin, we're both like, we're in Miami. And so, and
that must have been a lot of fun.
Oh, the stories I can tell my children, I can't wait. They will never be able to pull anything past me. Of course. But so it was great, but then nobody was hiring. And I'm like, oh my God, I have student loans that are going to be due very soon. Like, I'm going to start paying on these.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like freaking out. And so I knew I wanted to work at the public defender's office in Miami. So I was like, I'm just going to start volunteering there. And then I'm going to work another job to like pay my bills. So I'd volunteer in the morning, and then I would drive like an hour and a half to a document review job so I could, keep doing it. And then I'm also like studying for the bar exam at the same time. So I had like no life. I would sleep in my car because like to the traffic in Miami, I would not be able to get back to my apartment and to my job in time. So I would just like pull over somewhere, like Kmart was my jam. And I would go, and I had like one tree that I would just like drive under, and I would just like conk out.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever get stopped? Did anybody ever knock on your window?
Nobody ever bothered me. Like, they're probably like, this poor child. Like,
they knew they could see.
Yeah. So I did that. And then finally the public defender's office, they were like, okay, we're going to start doing interviews. You've been selected for an interview. And so I'm like prepping for it. I'm doing everything that I can because I really wanted it. And so I go in there and I'm just like, I kill it. Like I go in there like I'm going to trial, like, and I kill it. And they offered me the job basically on the spot. And I was so excited. I knew my career was starting. And then I found out that there was like 270 applicants and they only had one spot. And I got it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I wish I'd never known that because the fear, like.
No. Wait, so you got that job then?
I got the job.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I was just like you can tell me anything. I like took my little bit of money I had. I went to Brooks Brothers and like bought like little suits for myself so I'd look official.
But what was that like, being a public defender? And was that?
It was great. It was great for a time. So I got to work with the juveniles and I never wanted to leave that. Like, if they could have just kept me in the juvenile court, I would probably still be there today. And I loved it. And I loved going to trial. We would roll like 2 trials back to back on a day, the stress, but there was also underfunding. So, I was going out doing my own investigations with my coworkers.
Oh my gosh.
So we would go to the crime scenes. We would canvass neighborhoods trying to find witnesses. Like, I mean, we did some crazy stuff I would never recommend doing.
Yeah, but you felt it was necessary to.
It was necessary
adequately, defend something.
And you know that these kids don't have anybody. And the stories you were hearing of what these kids were going through, even like at the age of 12, what they had been through, you were like, no, I'm going to ride for you. Like, I got this. Like, even if it's trying to settle a case and get you the services you need, whatever we can do to like get you off this path, I'm not going to not do the work.
Wow.
And
That
so
is
that was
so,
amazing.
yeah.
And then I got called up to the big leagues doing felonies. And I was like, okay, I want to do like a murder trial, or I want to do death penalty. Like, let's do it. Let's go. And so I was getting cases, but then nobody wanted to really go to trial, or, because they're facing significant prison time.
Yeah. So they plead or something, or
yeah, so they want to plea out and stuff. Even if they did have a great case and they were innocent, they were so scared that they were like, no, I want to plea out.
yeah,
I don't
because the odds
risk.
there,
Yeah, and especially when you're indigent, you're poor, so you're not really having faith in me as an attorney, because I'm your free attorney. And public defenders have the worst. Public defenders have like the worst rep. And yeah, there are some bad ones, but there's so much talent. Most of the amazing private trial attorneys that are commanding millions of dollars started out as public defenders. So, but people don't realize that. They don't want you in the struggle.
Well, public defender, and it's depicted on TV as a
horribly. But it was so, and everybody in the office was really young too. So you're seeing these little kids who are like green, and they come squeaking up to you in court saying that they want to represent you, and you're just like, no, Doogie Howser, go get your dad.
But they also want to work hard. Like, it's something like they have drive, like you have enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Seems like you've had enthusiasm your whole life, but
yeah. So they were kind of like, okay. And then one day I was walking back, one of my cases had settled that I had prepped for trial, and I was so bummed out. And I'm walking down the hallway, and one of the older senior attorneys, he's like, hey, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna just do some depot prep, and then I'm gonna head over to the jail to go talk to people. And he was like, do you want to jump in on this trial with me? It starts in an hour. And he's like, you could be second chair. So I'm like, okay, what is it? And he's like, it's a double murder. And I was like, yes, I'm in. I'm there. I'm like, let me see the file. I got this. And so we went into, it's called Rock Court, and it's short for repeat offender court. Okay. And these are people that, they're probably going to go away for life. If they're found guilty of anything, they're going away for life. So I'm like reading over the file, and it's this young kid. He's like 22, and he's facing life, like double. And I was just like, oh no. And then I started like going over the file, and I realized he didn't do it. And that was the worst feeling, because now it's like, oh no, like this guy, he's innocent. Like, he didn't do it. And I was like, no, we gotta go all in. And so that case, like, I did everything I could, and he was so sweet. And he was just like, you know what? He's like, I just like, thank you. He's like, whatever happens, just thank you. He's like, I'll be okay. Whatever happens, I'll be okay. Wow. And that made me feel terrible, because I'm like, no, don't give up. Yeah. You don't give up right now. And so the jury was deliberating. And one of the things that I realized when I was looking at the jury sheet is like, if they look up top, that's a not guilty. But if they start reading from like the bottom of the page, that's guilty. Oh. So when the foreman gets up and he starts reading the verdict, I'm like looking at his eyes, like, oh my God, where is he looking? Where is he looking? Where is he looking? Yeah. And I saw that he was about to start reading from the top of the page, and I just started crying. Like, I was just like, okay.
And you changed his life. You changed the course of his life.
And he's a great guy still to this day. Like, he's amazing. And I just like, when they came over and they uncuffed him because he was free, like we were both just like hugging each other and crying. The judge yelled at me. I didn't care, but I was like, this is it. And then because
it's humanity. It's
humanity. And I always believe like you never let go of humanity. I don't care for what. Mm-hmm. And so
and they shouldn't, and he shouldn't have yelled. Like, that's, I know there's like, procedure.
Yeah, people try to say like emotion is weakness, but it's not. It's being human, and it's being real. And like, I knew though at the same time I was crying because I also knew that my legal career had come to its peak, and I knew that this was also me leaving.
Oh, yeah. So there's a lot of other pent up emotions that are.
Yeah, so I knew, because I was like, you did what you said you were going to do, and now you're either going to go downhill and keep just being in the rat race of pleading people out, or pushing like some bad cases, or you can still try. And so I walked out of court that day, and I think I was like 20, 26 or 27. So I walked out, I was on the courthouse steps, and like I knew, like I knew instinctively
Things
it's
were changing.
time to do something else. Didn't
Well,
know what I was gonna do.
how do you get from there to barbecue? And one other quick thing,
Yeah.
like this, a few seconds. This isn't a legal podcast, but how do you get the mindset to defend someone that you know is guilty? How would you?
I tried to, the thing I always did was I tried to get them to acknowledge what they did and then work on the best plea deal for them.
Okay.
I never took a case to trial in front of a jury or in front of the judge where the person was just like dead guilty.
Yeah.
Like you try to do everything in your power to work those out, because you know that they're going to go upriver, and you know that they're going to get railroaded and slammed. So it's not in your best interest to take a case to trial where the person is like just dead guilty, unless they have life. If the only offer on the table is life, or it's the death penalty, like you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know it's interesting, and it's interesting too, because I recently interviewed a photographer who photographed some guys on death row in Alabama, and he said it was bizarre to photograph someone that in 2 weeks is going to die, like it was his guy. Yeah, there's a whole world that if you've never been arrested, or there's a whole or never been a lawyer or never worked on the courts, you would never know anything about that whole world, and there's people that are just, it's recidivist, that people are just going through that system constantly, and especially if they have no support or no.
Well, and then another thing about it is like people are so quick to say, well, if you didn't do anything, you wouldn't have gotten arrested if you didn't do anything. But then you look at the Innocence Project and you see that DNA and new science has exonerated so many people that were executed, that were falsely accused of rape, that, all these horrible things happened to them. And it wasn't until science got better that they got exonerated. But 40 years of their life has been spent behind bars where they've been getting tortured. An innocent person has been ripped away from their family. They've gotten, I'm not even going to go into what happens in prison, but terrible things happen, and it's innocent people. And you have eyewitnesses, you have everybody that pointed saying that they were there or that they didn't have an alibi. You can be sitting in your house just watching Netflix. If nobody can vouch for you that you were there, Well,
also too, like if someone like 4 days from now, chances are I probably know the color, the color of your sweater, but someone could say, what color was she wearing? I could say, well, it was orange, or it was like, it was great.
I mean, have you ever thought you saw one of your friends or somebody you knew and you waved to them and it's not that person?
Yeah. Like the brain is a funny thing. Well, let's get to, so how did you get on this path then towards, were you always grilling and cooking and
I was always grilling and cooking with my dad. My dad can throw down, like he can make a shoe taste amazing. He's from New Orleans. And so that was just like something that I grew up. I didn't think, so I didn't think anything of it. It was just something we did, and I don't have any siblings, so I got to be like the default like assistant pitmaster in the but so I didn't really think about it. I was just kind of doing my thing, and then I got into wine when I moved to Tampa, and I was going through a divorce. Like I was in like an awful relationship, and I was like, this is not my life. Like this is not going to be Erica's future, like being miserable and like settling for way less than what I deserve. And so I took the chance and I went to wine school in California. Like I bleached my hair Beyonce blonde, got on a plane, like
where in California did you go to wine
Campbell
school?
So I went to the ICC, and they were in Campbell right outside of San Jose.
Mm-hmm.
So I went there. I studied under like 3 of the most amazing master sommeliers I've ever met in my life. And I was like, I just had so much riding on it because, all my friends back in Miami were just like, you're quitting law to like be in wine,
That's
like
awesome.
okay, girl. And I knew I needed to be successful. I knew I needed to pass my exams. I needed to become a somm. And so I flew to Arkansas to take my exam because I didn't want to take my exam in California, and if I failed, like have to face everybody. So I got on a plane, I flew to Arkansas, took the exam, and then they were like, only 5 of you passed. And I'm just like, oh crap. Like, this is not a good sign for me.
Out of how many people were taking their like?
I think it was like 15. I think 15 were there. And so I knew the one guy who failed immediately. His bottle of champagne exploded all over everybody during service. So I knew he was out.
No, that's
so
not
like,
always.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm like, well, I'm really only competing against like 14 others. But yeah, so then I passed and I ended up getting a job in Napa, and it was amazing.
Wait. Let's just slow down this part, because number 2, like, do you know that I have a show with Aaron Fegis on Wine? Yeah, because that's
I watch it. I love it.
And we're recording one in 2 days. We're recording another.
I like look forward to it. I always go over to the YouTube to see.
Oh, that's cool. Okay. That's because I feel like wine. I love wine, and in my past life when I was married, we would go to Los Olivos and to Arroyo Grande and to Napa and Sonoma. Like that was sort of our courtship, learning about wine and how great wine is. And so this is so interesting that you would. So I didn't know you were some. I love that I didn't know, because I did research and I didn't see this. So now, where in Napa? What restaurant did you work at?
Yeah, so I worked at Durant and Booth, and it was in Oakville, right next to the Oakville Grocery.
Yeah, I know where the Oakville Grocery.
Okay, so the White House that was right next to it was Durant and Booth, and that's where I worked.
How magical is it up there, right? It's like a weird world. Like, people, if you haven't gone, like a lot of people haven't been to Santa Barbara from California, from LA, which is sad. But like going even further, Napa and Sonoma, it's such a great day trip. I know that I think Andrew from Tales from the Pits, for his anniversary, they called it off. They put it off because of COVID. But there's so many great, and architecture wise, it's amazing. It's just because they have so much money, because they make so much money, so they build these beautiful estates, and but there's also these old estates, and even going to Opus one, like, it's such a cool.
So my walk to work was through the vineyards of Opus.
Really?
To get to work. So I was always like looking, like,
it's like that little spaceshipy thing. Like,
it's like the underground bunker.
Like, yeah, it is like a bunker. It's so bizarre, but that's really, that's cool. Okay, so that's your food path then, right? That's kind of okay.
So then I ended up, the winery ended up closing. And so I moved down to San Diego to become the assistant wine director at the Marriott. Okay. So at first I was like their wine girl, just like their wine bartender, working my way up. And so at this point, I'm single, like I got my cute little apartment in the East Village, like you can't tell me nothing. And so the good thing about the Marriott, they were like, you can transfer to any property like in the world. So I'm just like, oh man, I'm going to go to the Ritz in, Macau. Like, I'm going to go work there. I'm going to go to London. Like, not Did Ohio. You? No. So what happens is literally like the first week, I meet my future husband.
Of course. That's how it works. That's how. And he's not interested in going to Macau, is he?
No, he's in the Navy, so he's like, "How about San Diego?" Like,
but that's actually that makes all the sense that he was in the Navy. Yeah, no, I went to San Diego State University. I was an English and Japanese minor, but it's a Navy. There's a lot of Navy guys there.
Yeah, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. I told him, I was like, I loved it. I was like, I just watched the ships come in, and I was like, all right, you.
That's funny. Yeah.
So in my head, I thought I was going to be like this big world traveling, like wine girl, like flitting around, going to Paris, all this stuff. No, I ended up in San Diego. That's where it stopped.
So did you guys live there for a while?
We did, and got married, got pregnant, had a kid.
Okay.
So then once I had my baby, like I'm housebound now, and I'm like the most antsy person ever. Like I always need to be on the go. And now I'm like, no, you're not going anywhere. Like you have a baby, you're like in charge of like keeping him alive. So I'm like in the house all day.
And good for your temperament and stuff to like, at least dial it back just for a second.
So I'm like in the house all day and with like nothing to do in between like feeding and diaper changing schedules and like trying to like take naps here and there. And so I wasn't working in the restaurant anymore because it just was not a good look. Like I'm like out, I was like out to here, like waddling around trying to
Yeah.
open wine, and everybody was just like pitying me. Like
Which it should be like, it should be an acceptable look, but it's actually people that are like, what the hell?
no, like people buy wine on like the illusion of like sexiness.
Yeah.
And then when you
You're
have like
selling
this
it,
big,
yeah.
when you have this big pregnant girl like hoofing around, like just struggling on her belly to open your wine bottle at your table, I get
Yeah,
it. It's
probably
not
right,
the
yeah.
night you want to have.
Yeah.
It's like instant birth control. I get it.
That's true. Yeah.
You're probably going to switch to water. Like, I get it. I wasn't mad at anybody. So then I was working, I went back to doing document review and like drafting up contracts and stuff like that online as an attorney. And then like, I would take care of my baby. So then I started talking to my dad, and my dad's like going over his retirement and his bucket list and stuff like that. And he's going through all the stuff he wants to do. And so like we were talking about safaris, we we're talking about all this crazy stuff, like a bed and breakfast, like all this stuff. And then he mentioned like he wanted to start a barbecue restaurant or like a food truck. And I'm like, okay, now that's something cool. Like I was like, okay, Dad, I feel your spirit.
Okay,
I like
this makes
that.
sense. Okay.
Yeah. And so we're getting down to it. We're talking about it. And then we realized like neither one of us knows how to like barbecue for the masses. Like we can barbecue for ourselves.
Yeah.
But barbecue for the masses, neither one of us knew how to like work the back end of the restaurant to do that, and like how to do all that
It's
stuff.
a lot,
And like and get our recipes down that like people would like. And so then I was like, well, I'm going to look into it because we need to be able, like, in case all of our workers like walk out and quit, we need to be able to handle everything. I was like, I can work front of the house. I've been doing that now for years. I was like, but I don't know back of the house that well. And I was like, I'm a good food runner.
And he's in New Orleans. And you're...
he's in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So he was in Ohio. Okay.
He's in Ohio, retired Air Force. He retired there.
But you said that he eventually moved to New Orleans?
No, he's from New Orleans.
Okay.
Yeah, he's from New Orleans.
Okay.
Most of our family is down there.
Okay.
And so then he was just like, he's like, okay. He's like, well, let's do this. He's like, do whatever research you need. So then I start watching like all the barbecue shows on TV, and I find out about competition barbecue. And I'm like, this is a thing? Like, whoa. So I'm like watching all this stuff. And so then all of a sudden now it's like, I'm gonna go compete, because then we'll know how our barbecue fares against everybody else. But I didn't know that competition barbecue isn't the barbecue you would serve at a restaurant. Like I didn't know that yet, so that was my mistake. But so I'm like working on names for like my new barbecue persona, all this stuff, and then I start researching the pitmasters I see on TV, and I find out that Harry Sue is in Diamond Bar, California. So I'm just like, oh, that's great. I'm in San Diego. I can go up there.
Not too far.
Yeah, so I take time off of work, and I enroll in his class, and I drive up there, and I'm just like sweating bullets. I'm so nervous, and I'm just like, oh no, I'm gonna be like made fun of, these people, whatever. But I was like, whatever, I'm gonna do it. I'm here now. So I like walked into his house, into his backyard, and like there he is, just like standing there, and I'm just like, whoa, like I didn't even have time to like prepare myself.
And you had seen him on shows, so yeah.
Yeah, I just seen him on TV, and he was the sweetest, nicest, most welcoming person ever. And he was like, hey, he's like, have a seat, let's do this. He gave me my little apron, like, so I'm feeling all official. And like,
I didn't know there was this connection. This is great.
Yeah, and I was the only female that was in the class, and so I was like a little kind of nervous, but everybody was so nice to me, and we were all just talking, and it was just so cool. And then I was talking to one of the other guys, because like he and his son had competed. They had been to one competition. So I was like asking him what that was all about. And he was like telling me. And so then when Harry got started, he was like, so how many of you guys are, backyard warriors? How many of you guys are competing? And I didn't raise my hand for either one. I was just like, I'm here. I'm here for the snacks. I'm here for the pork bellies. But no, so then the guy next to me, he was like, you compete. You said you're going to compete, like raise your hand. And I was like, oh crap. And he's like, do it. So I like raised my hand. And so then Harry came over, and he's like standing in front of me, and he's like, you have a competition team? And I'm just like, yeah. And he's like, what's its name? What's your team name? And I never said it before out loud or anything. And so I like stood up and I was like, it's Blue Smoke Blaire. And like, I'm telling you, like, it took all my courage to even do that. And when I did that, like, I felt the change. I felt the energy.
Wow,
And
that
like,
was the moment.
yeah. And I've told people before, like, I knew that I had just breathed life into whatever this was going to be. It was happening right here at Harry Sue's porch.
At Harry Sue's diamond bar. That is awesome.
So then, like, after the class, he taught me so much. Like, I couldn't even believe it was one day, but he taught me more.
Yeah, I've heard that it's so much information. Yes,
it's intense. But he has like already pre-made booklets of everything that he says. So, like, you can go back and he's like, take pictures of everything, do whatever you need to do. And I still use his techniques today.
Wow.
And because it was basically like barbecue Bible for me. And so then I signed
up. I'll put a link below to his class because that's I know he's doing them in person again a lot.
So, if he's doing them, I suggest anybody that can get there, do it. Sure. And like, for what you learn, he's undercharging. Like,
well, his brain is, he's thinking of 6,000 things at once at all times. Like, if there's one way to do something, he has 45 ways to do something.
It's so true.
He's a mad scientist. Yes,
he is, and he's worked so hard to make it so simple to teach, and that's mad respect right there.
He cares.
Because you can like make it where people feel like, oh, I'll never be able to do what you do. He's a complete opposite. Yeah. He's like, I've done this so many times. Here's the easy way of doing it. And that's really cool that somebody would do that for you. Did
you then compete right after that, or how?
Yeah. So I signed up. I was in like some chat rooms or something, and they were like, oh, you have to sign up for competitions because they sell out fast and you won't get a spot. So I overdo it. I signed up for like 4 competitions back to back.
You're like me. Yes, so how did that go?
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't go to any of them. We went directly into the pandemic and the shutdown. So they were all like canceled. So then I ended up just like cooking at home and practicing, just using Harry Sue's book nonstop, like reworking things. Cause now I had time on my hands. And now at this point, my husband was about to retire. So we decided to move the family back to Yellow Springs, Ohio. So I'm just like sitting there, with a baby now. He's like 2 and we're in the house all day. So I'm just like cooking. And then I get on Instagram and I start connecting with barbecue people. Now they're telling me things like on how Instagram barbecue works. And there was this guy named Ted. He's still one of my really good friends, Frozen Smoke. He's from Alaska.
Okay.
And like we were just in like a group together, big burly guy too, like mountain man. And we're like chatting all day. We're like, DMing each other all day, like sending barbecue shots and pictures and stuff like that. But he taught me so much of how Instagram works and how Instagram barbecue works. And like, I didn't know what a hashtag was. Like, I didn't know why people kept putting those on their photos. Like,
that's hilarious. Yeah, no, there's a learning curve. There's definitely a learning curve.
Oh, it was like, and so I end up, I'm talking to Ted all the time, and he's just like telling me how to do Instagram and how to make it good and how to take better photos. My friend Smokey Q, he started a barbecue pitmaster chat group, and then we do Zooms. So that got us through the pandemic.
That's fun.
Every Thursday we're having like barbecue happy hour,
Oh, that's great.
And it got us all through. It got us all through the pandemic together. And it was talking about barbecue and having fun and just like what you do. And,
were you doing little pop? Because I've noted, like, were you starting to do pop-ups at all, or was it
not at all? Like, I was still just like trying to like put my Weber together. Like, I was using my dad's pit boss because like I didn't even like know exactly what I was doing. I was still starting like forest fires. So my dad was like, use my pellet grill, baby girl. He's like, you won't catch this one on fire. So I was like, okay, all right, Dad. He's like, stop messing with charcoal right now.
But then how did you get on the food? So is that how, so is this, this is the route.
That's how it happens. So then one day I'm going through Instagram and I see like, there's like a second inbox of like, I guess people who you're not friends with that try to message you. And so I didn't know that
request
existed.
Or something like that or something.
Yeah. So I didn't know that existed. And I went in there and I had all these messages and I'm just like, half of them were like fake and whatever. But then there was one and like the title, she was like, hello, I'm a casting producer, and I saw your page. So I'm like, oh, okay, let's see what this is.
Yeah.
So I open it up. I'm like, I'm not sending nudie pics. I'm not sending photos.
Exactly.
Like, stop.
Usually that's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, it's usually like, can you send me pictures?
For me, it's like someone wanting to marry me from like another country. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I'm sure. I'll reach out. Yeah, you want my social security number? Yeah, I'll give it to you.
You need me to wire transfer
Yeah,
money?
yeah.
Not today. But yeah, so I read the message and I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. But then they asked for like a Skype interview, and I'm like, aha, I knew you were a scammer. Like, yeah, I got you, strong against crime. But no, so then I screenshot it and I sent it to my pitmaster group. And I was like, hey guys, I got this. It's probably a scam. What are you guys thinking? And then one of the guys in the group, he's like, no, he's like, this is real. He's like, I worked with them on a show. I wasn't able to do it because of my time commitment, but this is real. You need to call her back. You need to like write her immediately if it's not too late. And so now all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay. So I write her back, she responds, and then she sets up an interview, and she's like, it's a barbecue show. You know, we're going to be filming it, judging on what's happening with this pandemic and stuff like that. So I went through that whole interview process, and then I didn't hear anything for a year.
For a year?
But you know, I wasn't mad. I was like, I have all of like 15 followers. And like 2 of them are like my dogs. So I was like, at least I got noticed. Like, that's cool. And so that really gave me a lot of confidence, like that I was on the right path. And so I started barbecuing. I started going to my competitions, and I loved competing. I went all by myself. And everybody looked at me like I was crazy, because they're like, do you have somebody with you who's gonna run? And I'm like, no, I'm here by myself.
Like, wow, that's you stand out for sure.
Oh God, they were like looking at me like I had 6 heads. Like, they put me right up at the front, like not near anybody's nice RVs, not by anybody's nice girls, just like keep an eye on me and make sure that like I didn't set the place on fire.
That's so
and
funny.
they were like, we're just gonna check on you, and just like, if you need anything, let us know. And a lot of barbecue people started coming over, and they were just like, you know, you're by yourself. They're like, this is your first one? And I'm like, yeah, this is my first competition, but you know, I'm excited. I was sleeping in the back of a truck. Like, I rented like an Enterprise or a U-Haul truck, and I was like sleeping in it, and like going out and like trimming chicken skins and stuff by a little Coleman lantern and everything. I had my whole little setup. Like, I was so proud of myself.
Gosh.
Yeah, I was so proud of myself. I thought, like, you can tell me nothing. And so they were just like, look, they're like, if you need any help, they're like, we will help you. If you have questions, we will help you. If you need somebody to run your boxes for you, because I didn't think about that, like the timing in between the boxes and running them and prepping. And so they were like offering me all this help. And these are people that didn't know me, didn't know anything I was about, but they saw that I was here. They saw that I was about barbecue, and they wanted me to have a successful experience. Even if I never did it again, they wanted to be there for me. And that was so crazy, because you don't get that, especially in a competition.
Yeah, you wouldn't assume that that world was like that, but it is.
Yeah. And like, you know, and I mean, they were all coming over and they were giving me tips. Like, they were telling me like what they do and stuff, just to like really help me not like fail my first time out. And so they were like, look, the best thing you can do, it's your first time, just don't get disqualified. They're like, don't worry about anything else. Just don't get disqualified. Okay. Make it to the finish line. And I was just like, okay, like, I'm going to do it. So I turn it in. We're sitting at the award ceremony. I come in dead last in every category.
Doesn't matter.
Dead last, but I finished.
Yeah.
And
but
I did
that's
it
a good
by
experience.
myself.
Yeah, you did it by yourself, and you learn more about the barbecue community and what they're
I made
like.
so many friends. Yeah. So I was like, I can't wait to go to the next one. Like, this is awesome. Like, you know, I can't wait. And so my next one, I brought my mom with me, because I was like, okay, I do need help. Like, I can't, that was crazy. I remember I pulled over on the side of the road in Kentucky, and I was so exhausted. I just like laid out with like the worst migraine ever, because I was so exhausted. I was like dehydrated. Like, it was so much. But I was excited. I didn't care. It was worth it. But yeah, so then as this guy came over to me, this guy from Indiana named Bill, and he's like, hey, he's like, I saw you in Kentucky, right? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, I was like, everybody knew who I was by then. And so he was like, hey, he's like, do you want me to sit with you and like help teach you how to like trim and do stuff like that? And I was like, if you want to. And it's like midnight. It's a little before midnight. And so he sat with me with my little lantern, and
Oh, that's
he helped me trim all through the night. He helped me prep things. He was teaching me everything. He's Thunderhog Barbecue.
okay.
And we ended up becoming like the best of friends. Like I talk to him all the time. I mean, in no other world would he and I be friends, but like
That's the beauty of it.
barbecue. Yeah, barbecue brought us together, and now he's one of my best friends. And
So
we're doing
great.
Memphis in May together. Like
Oh,
he's
that's so
amazing.
great.
Yeah, and he became my mentor. Like, and he's guided me through so much. And he's like grand champion times a million. Like he's up there, but yet he still sat with me and was like, I'm gonna help you, and we're gonna do this together. And that's amazing. And that means everything. That's what barbecue love is about. So it just, after that, like I've been hooked on barbecue ever since. So I keep competing, I don't hear anything, and then all of a sudden in January I get a phone call, and now it's like Food Network, and I'm just like, oh my God. And they're just like,
this is 2021 probably.
2021 now.
Okay. Yeah.
And so they're going through like interviews, they're super intense. And I'm just like, the questions they're asking, I'm like, I'm not good enough. Like, if these are the questions you're asking, like my answers suck. Like, it's like, I'm not good enough. Maybe you guys should just let me die in peace. But yeah,
my hopes are too high, please.
Yeah, I was like, I've done too much. Yeah. Like, thank you. I'm sorry for wasting your time. But yeah, so and I'm still with my pitmasters chat, and they've gotten me to the point where now, like, I'm very confident, I'm very capable, and I feel good. I know how to photograph food to a much better extent. I'm not like with my fingerprint on the camera, like sending smudge things. I invented filters. Like I always have green screen camera, but
that's hilarious.
But so then they're like, all right, we're sending you tickets. You're heading down to Austin, Texas. You might be there for up to 2 months. You're
2 months?
Yeah, they're like the filming, and they're like, you're not a finalist yet. You're a finalist, but you're not guaranteed to be on the show. So I'm just like, okay.
That's
but
interesting.
I'm like, I'm a mom that's been cooped up. Like, you want to give me a vacation and put me up in a hotel, like, and I get a bed to myself? Like,
that's gonna
sign me up. I'll go. I'll play this game. And so I was thinking that the show was just like this kind of like casual, like little competition. Like I knew it was barbecue. I knew what it was going to be about, but I thought it was like an amateur show. And then the next thing I know, I walk into the hotel, and the first person I see is Rodney Scott. And then I see Megan Day. Yeah. And I'm just sitting there, and I'm like,
wait a second.
Oh, no. I'm like, oh crap. I'm like, please be judges. Please don't be, competitors.
Yeah, I'm not against you guys. Yes.
I'm not cooking against Rodney Scott. Sorry, not in this lifetime, never. And
that would just be a cruel joke, I think.
Yeah. And I'm like, and Megan, I watched Smoke and Ribbons. Like I followed her, like, she was one of my heroes.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Yeah, she's amazing. And so then I'm just like sitting there, and I call my dad, and I'm telling him, I'm like, oh man, I sold wolf tickets that I can't cash. Like I'm in so much trouble right now. I was like, I'm going to go by my middle name so I don't embarrass the family. Hopefully nobody watches this. Like I'll be off soon. I'll be home soon. Like,
so then did they because it was so up in the air, how did you end up, you ended up getting on the show? It was just
so then we had like our orientation. They're like, be downstairs at 7:01 a.m. and we're heading out to the set. So I realized that I must be on the show. And then when we got to the set, I saw people that I had seen at the hotel, and they weren't there anymore. Yeah. So I realized like they had made like their selection process, but like nothing was communicated to me or anything like that. So we get on set, and immediately, I'm just in shock because I've never seen this many cameras in my life. And like, and then it's like, it's in the Wild West, it's in like a cowboy town, I'm waiting for like tumbleweed and prairie dogs to be sticking their heads up, rattlesnakes, and so I'm just in awe of the set, and I'm in awe of like, I mean, it's Hollywood, I guess. It was just like, I was in Hollywood, I was in awe of what I saw, because I had never seen this. And then I thought back to like all the shows I've watched on TV, and realizing that this was there too, you know, and what those people must
you
have
don't
been
think
going
about it. Yes.
you don't think about it. You don't know that there's like 80 million cameras. When you see different angles of a shot, you don't realize that means there was like 80 million different cameras
and tons of different people
it.
walking around doing a million jobs.
Yeah. Headsets, people running around, you know. And so I'm just like, I'm kind of like sitting there, and then I see the famous like Food Network clock. And that's when it became real. Like, because now I'm not in my underwear on my couch, like being, you know, the Monday morning quarterback from the couch, like being like, oh, if I had done that, I would have done this.
I would have added that, yeah.
No, I see that clock and I realize like that clock's coming for me. Like that clock is for me now. Like that's for me. And so I'm just like looking at it and I'm just like, oh my God, this is unreal. And so nobody's really saying anything, you know, I'm meeting all the other people for the first time, like seeing them and stuff like that. So I'm all excited. I'm like looking at people I know and seeing like who I think I'm going to like get along with, who seems nice, who doesn't seem too nice, who's here to like be a samurai.
Really
who's here to just like mow me down, you know, who's going to make this fun, who's going to be like cool. And then all of a sudden, like, they're like, you know, quiet on the set, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, they put us where we're supposed to be and I stand. And then all of a sudden, like coming around the corner, I see Bobby Flay. And like, we didn't have an introduction before or anything.
They never told you this?
Like, I knew he was going to be on the show because they gave us the name of the show.
Yeah.
But like, I didn't meet him before. You don't meet them like beforehand or anything like that. So the next thing I know, Bobby Flay comes rounding the corner and I just feel like I've stumbled upon a grizzly bear. Like all of a sudden I'm just like, what do you do? Like don't make eye contact, look down, like look busy, like try to be invisible, invisibility cloak. Like
that's hilarious.
I'm just like sitting there. I'm like, I am starstruck, but I am paralyzed with fear because now it's like somebody who I've seen
a million times. Yeah.
And now like he's in front of me. He's like 2 feet away from me. And I was so intimidated. Like, I won't lie. I was very intimidated and you could have knocked me over with a feather. Like, I didn't know what to do. For the first 3 days of filming, I did not make eye contact with him. Like, I would talk to him, but I would like look down.
So you were team you were team Bobby Flay. Yeah.
Yeah, he picked me for his team, which I was like, oh no, why'd you do that? But so
it was like, Bobby Flay and Michael Simon, right?
And Eddie Jackson.
Oh, Eddie Jackson too. Yeah. Who seems like just the nicest guy too.
They were all really nice, but like I would not make eye contact with Bobby. I was just like, yes, chef, you know, like I would cringe if I knew he was like coming over to like check what I was doing, because I was like, there's no reason in this universe why you should be like eating my food. Like
I'm gonna because I watched it. I want to rewatch this on that. That first
like I was trying to make myself a house plant, and I think for like the first 6 episodes I was a house plant. Like I was just like in the background.
But you made it through all those episodes.
Yeah. Like I was like, you know, do like prison mentality, like eyes down, don't make noise, like
do my job.
Do my job, get out. But he was so sweet. He was so nice. And like, he pulled me aside. Well, he pulled all of us aside and he was like talking to us, like kind of like coaching us, like, you know, you're going to be okay. Cause you know, everybody's like,
yeah.
And then one of the other things that was really intimidating was like almost everybody else had been on a cooking show before. They had been on TV. I think I was the only one that hadn't been on TV before. So they had like this ease and this comfort that I didn't have.
Yeah.
So
well, and a lot of people that people might know from who are watching the show have at least been like running restaurants and had, you know, all the cameras around them a lot, or at least the news. Like that was.
Yes. And I was like, the only camera I've had is my little phone.
Yeah, your own, or like.
And I was new to barbecue. Like I just started competing the year before. So like, I felt like I was fighting a bunch of different internal battles that I had to get over, and then I had to cook. With
this process, because obviously you won this and congratulations, but what did you take? What were like the big takeaway? Was it that you can do this? Like it's right, because this is something like you've always had this drive, you've always had this I could do whatever, like I'm gonna succeed, but
see what happens.
Like but like a lot, like to think about going on to a Food Network TV show, a competition barbecue show, which you hadn't really You know, your chops, you were just learning the party. It's
I
almost
shouldn't
like
have
it's
been
like,
doing it.
wow, that's like, is
Oh
this
my God. But no, the thing was like for the first few episodes, like I was getting reamed. Like the judging, I mean, they're very honest. And they tell you the good stuff, but they tell you the bad stuff too. And so I was getting reamed and everybody was getting reamed.
yeah.
And I noticed instantly that a lot of the other contestants were taking it personally. And they were like, they
Interesting.
were they were so invested in what they cooked and how they did it that they really didn't want to take the criticism.
And they
And
probably are rarely told that they're doing things wrong.
maybe that's what it
Maybe, I
was.
don't know. I'm just trying to think of
Yeah,
reasons.
I don't know. But I noticed that they didn't handle the criticisms well. Whereas I was like, whoa, like I have these amazing chefs trying my food. And they're like, they're ripping me apart, but they're telling me how to make it better.
It's constructive.
And they're teaching me stuff that they've learned. Like it's taken them their whole lifetime and they're spitting out like these knowledge bombs of like culinary goodness. And I'm just like, oh wait, I was like, this is good. So I really took a back seat and I just started listening. And even, they could call me everything but a child of God. I would be like, thank you, because I'm gonna get better tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm gonna do what I just heard you say. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And so I felt like it was actually really good. And I would listen to everything they said to everybody, as much as I could hear. Then I got really confident near the middle of the season because I started like realizing like, okay, like you're all right. But I looked around and I saw everybody who was there. And I was like, I had a moment where I was like, had to be real with myself. And I was like, here's what you do. And here's what you do well. And you've been up here trying to do what they do. You've been trying to cook the barbecue that they cook.
That's nice.
That's what they do well. That is not who you are. Like, you need to be real with yourself. And so I said, I'm just going to cook like I cook at home. I'm going to cook the dishes from my culture, the dishes that we share at my family table that I'm invested in. And if that gets me sent home, okay, but at least I'm going home being real.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did a complete change. And I was like, I told Bobby, I was like, I'm going to cook the way Erica wants to cook. And he was like, you know why I did so well in my career? He's like, I only cooked what I knew. I didn't try to cook outside of myself. I only cooked what I knew. And it was like Karate Kid. Like all of a sudden, like I heard it and I was just like, yes. Like I was like, cook what you know.
But that's great advice. That's really good advice. And it's like trying to, and it's hard to find your own voice or your own place or your own footing in a lot of things. And then you just kind of felt that at that moment. That's a shift too. That was another shift.
It was a huge shift. And I was like, you know what? I was like, I'm going to cook from my cultures. I'm going to cook from my heritage. I'm going to cook the stuff that we've been cooking for years. And that's it. And all of a sudden I started busting out like dishes that me and my family made. And the next thing you know, like all of a sudden I'm winning best dish of the day. I'm winning best bite. Like I'm advancing. And so I was just like, oh my God. I was like, okay. Yeah. And so then the finale, like I was the last person standing on my team. And Bobby didn't steal anybody because you were allowed to steal somebody. He didn't steal anybody. He was like, it's just going to be you and me, kid. He's like, we're going to do this. And I was like, are you sure?
It's like a movie.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't want to. So then I had the pressure. I was like, I don't want to be known as the girl that got Bobby Flay sent home on his own show. Like, and then like, it was funny because we had to run to the pantry. It was timed. And what people didn't know, the pantry is first come, first serve. So when it's gone, it's gone.
Oh, wow.
So you got to run and get there. And so one day I remember I really needed some seafood and I'm just like planning with my little bus tub, like how I'm going to get there. And then I'm sitting there and I'm like running for my life. And behind me is Eddie Jackson. And I like, at the moment, the absurdity of it all just had me cracking up. I was like, on what planet is like my non-athletic self trying to outrun an NFL player? Like,
exactly.
Like, what are you doing? Do you really think you have a chance? Like
why was he on his own?
He's cool. So he was down to, I think, two contestants. Okay. And he does, I think it's like Rose Hill Beer Garden, like this really cool complex. That's like what he does in Houston. So I was trying to go see him, but he was in Utah. So I was like, okay. I was like, I'll catch you on the next one.
Well,
But
why was he running for food? Was he running because
he had to get food.
Was Bobby running too for food?
No.
Should I not put that in there?
Like Eddie is so like such a like
so he's hands on, like he was super hands.
Yeah, he's like a born competitor. So he's like
life, yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna get to that pantry. I'm gonna get the best food for my team.
Okay, that's why it makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just like, I'm sitting there and I look back and I'm like, why am I trying to outrun Eddie Jackson? Like, girl, stop. Like,
I'll spoil it for anybody that hasn't watched, but you won this, and I
ended up winning.
Yeah, you ended up winning. Which
yes.
How did that feel? Because I want to get into the stuff that you're doing with the smoke sheet and with Connor and his on 3.
So I ended up winning. It was surreal. I waited because I thought maybe I was hallucinating and had like a psychotic break, and really I didn't win. So they had to like say it twice.
That's awesome. So great.
Because I really believed that I was hallucinating and that I didn't win, and like maybe like I just finally had a break with reality.
So what does that do for you? Like, does that give you a lot more notoriety? Do you have to do interviews and things? And
I did. So I did the interview circuit, and they did a digital show with me for the summer with like little barbecue hacks. And I got the title of Master of Q. And so I was like, what can I do with this to like really stay true to how I started in barbecue and spread barbecue love? Yeah. And I was like, I want to use this platform to become a really good barbecue ambassador and share other people's stories and uplift them. Perfect. And that's how the pit stop started.
Okay. And for people that might not know, Ara, and is it how you pronounce his last name? Yeah. And actually, I think he was because JC Reed from the Houston Chronicle, he told me that I think Ara lived in Los Angeles at one point, because
he opened up all the Wolfgang Pucks. He was like the executive chef.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, we've been trying to go back and forth to interview for 4 years now. But I just know he's a unique human, and
that's an understatement.
Yeah,
he's the most interesting man in the world.
So interesting. And so you met him on the show, and through that you met Connor from On3, and then you also met the guys from Smoke Sheet, and that's Sean and Ryan.
Yeah. And then I asked them, I said, hey, I was like, I'm getting in my RV. I want to take a tour, do a barbecue tour, because I want to, interview pitmasters and stuff like that. And they were like, I was like, can we work together? And they were like, this would be great. And I asked them, I said, can I be a correspondent for the Smoke Sheet? And they were like, of course you can. Awesome. And they're like, can you make it down to Houston? And I was like, sure, I will drive down to Houston. And after that, like the Houston community just opened up so much, and they've been so warm and so inviting, and just like letting us into, their lives. Like they're unfiltered, and they share everything. And then
those people are like the people across the United States. Barbecue people are some of the best people on the planet.
Yeah, we're going out to Kansas City. We're going to do the Midwest next. Like,
nice. Well, let's even without spoiling too much about the Houston trip, because those videos will be coming. They're being kind of crafted properly.
Connor is editing them right now.
And Connor, I'll give a shout out to Connor, because I was working on a project about why barbecue is so special, and he edited a story about him and his dad going to Corkscrew, and it's just beautiful. And he's becoming better and better and better.
Oh, I love him
at editing and in storytelling. Like, he's really, not that he wasn't good before, but he's great now.
But it's all a learning process, and now
all life is. Yeah, he's crushing it. And so give us a little taste of how we went to 16 places. How many places did you guys? 17.
Between all of us, we went to 17. I am gonna get on my Peloton after this to try and lose the 15 I gained.
Yeah, but there's a lot of this sort of paleo, right? A little bit of paleo diet.
Definitely caveman diet.
So you guys at each spot, it was a chance for you, especially, and you were the host, right? You're the Yeah, okay. And you were able to talk to everyone from
everybody.
Yeah.
And we made sure this season is going to focus a lot on just like fellowship and like being together. And it was great because not only is it just the interview, but then like we had people from the community come out, and we never turned anybody away. We were like, pull up a chair, come eat with us. And we literally had barbecue Thanksgiving twice a day, every day.
Yeah, and it's like everyone from writers to people that are just in the community that maybe I and you would know, but people that just, that love that kinship, that fellowship. Yeah, that's.
And I mean, people just came out, and we never said anything. We're like, pull up a chair, let's talk, let's eat. Make sure you get a plate, like. And it was barbecue at its finest.
That is so great. And so do you know, like, awesome. So then when roughly do you guys feel like these, maybe are they gonna be dropping like one at a time kind of thing? Is that like your idea?
I think right now we're gonna drop one at a time. But
makes more sense.
Some of the episodes will be like 2-parters. And so we're gonna drop one at a time, and we're gonna have them go all the way through the summer, so that there will be something for people to see and for people to go like that. And
I'll share, like, and if anybody is watching this I'll put links below to everything, and then once follow all of our Instagrams and everything, because they'll be you guys will be promoting it like crazy, because it'll be something that's fun for people and interesting, and it's like a glimpse. You guys saw things that a lot of people wouldn't see, and
and it's because we just see the human side of these pit masters, and they're small business owners, and they have a dream, and they're in there every day working so hard to make sure that they keep that dream alive and to share it with other people.
And that they have consistent food.
Part. Oh yeah,
because that's not easy to do it every day. People don't realize, like, it's easy to do it once, not easy, but it's
come back next month.
And they don't have Bobby Flay, who's making him a little bit nervous. But here's a question: do you ever talk to Bobby Flay?
No, I haven't actually. I talked to Michael Simon a lot.
Really?
Fellow Ohioan, so we're trading barbs about the Bengals.
Have you been to Mabel's?
Huh?
Have you been to his place, Mabel's Barbecue?
I went to the one in the airport. There was one in the Cleveland airport.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And I went to that one some years back. So, and then I think I was going to go to the one he had like something in Michigan, I think at one point, like outside of Detroit, but I never went to it. So I'm interested to see what concept he's coming up with.
He has Cleveland. He has in Cleveland. He has.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
he wipes up in Cleveland. Like he is Cleveland.
And he's proud. He's really proud of Cleveland, and it's nice to, like, I think Lola, I think one of his restaurants.
Yes, Lola. I believe I did go to Lola like some years back. I believe I did.
He had a show. He had a show because he was an Iron Chef. He had a show. I don't even know if you could even find it, but it was like him in almost like a black room with a couple like sous chefs, and it was him showing how you do an Iron Chef meal. Like, it was almost like the behind the scenes.
That's cool.
It was so amazing. It was so amazing, but it was like, I don't know. I was married at the time, so it was like 10 years ago, 12 years. 700. It was 700.
We're gonna find it in the metaverse.
Yeah, it was summer, but yeah, he seemed like a nice guy. But I'm excited. I'm really excited for your path, and we could talk on for probably 2 more hours. And there's things, like I said, we should do a part 2, maybe after the summer. After these are out, we could talk again and kind of see how you're feeling and like what you've done, because I'm sure by the end of summer
there's so much in the pipelines right now. So yes,
busy. So what are all the best ways for people to follow you and get a hold of you?
I'm the most responsive on Instagram. That's where you can always find me. So if you just go to Blue Smoke Blaire, that's me.
Okay, cool.
And I respond to everybody as long as it's not something creepy.
And if you're
talk to everybody.
That's cool. And then you also have your website is
bluesmokeblaire.com.
And you'll be having, looks like you're going to have sauces and
they just came in, so they are in the warehouse right now. I am so excited. We've been working on that for a year and a half.
Cool. That's
and we use a local cold packer. Like, I wanted to make sure I support my community.
Nice.
So I'm super stoked, and nice. I got some stuff in the works that's going to be coming out.
I'm guessing you have a book coming out someday. You have to have.
No. I always do a cookbook with my barbecue group, so that's the only book.
No, but I think there's like a book about your life. Like, this is the public defender that goes to the Food Network and then has a traveling barbecue show. There's something.
How to never commit to anything until.
Who also maybe as a sommelier too. That's like the hardest, like that. Like, what was harder, passing the bar or passing the sommelier? This is my last question for you.
It was the SOM exam. like I didn't cry when I passed the bar exam. I was like, whoo, okay. When I passed the SOM exam, I walked outside of the building in Arkansas and I started crying
That is
because it meant everything to me,
mhm.
and it was crazy hard.
Yeah, because you have
And
to be able to identify
oh yeah,
a grape from a region, and like it's like
down to
what
the
part?
soil,
Yeah, the
down to
soil.
the
Like it's
soil and to the vintage. And it's all on you. There's nobody to help you.
what do
It
you
is
think
all on
too? Like
you.
you like I hate to like even bring up COVID, but for people that had COVID and can't taste and they're sommeliers, how does that?
Well, that was my biggest fear because I was like, oh my God, if I catch, well, so we have a big thing in the Somm community. Like, you don't want to catch a MRSA infection because that can take away your sense of smell and taste, and that you're out
Oh,
of a
interesting.
career.
Yeah.
You're out of a career because now you're just faking it.
Yeah.
And
Or just think if you were like a month off from taking the exam and you got COVID and you
well, they say that there's a, we call it the Somm flu, and it's your nerves. And you'll see people at the exam, they catch Somm flu, and also they were perfectly fine the day before, and now they have the worst head cold. And it's like legit, it's all in their head though.
of course.
And they actually cannot smell, cannot taste, their nose is stuffed up, and it's called Somm flu, and
Wow,
it's
that's
all
interesting.
in your head, and it's because
Yeah.
of your nerves.
Yeah. And it shows the power of like of your mind and the
Oh
power
yeah,
of and you could force yourself to think or do all of a
that
sudden
you're
like wow,
sick.
wow,
But
that's
I'll
amazing.
tell you the one coolest thing that I'm bummed about. When I was pregnant, I had a nose like a bloodhound. And like, because I couldn't drink the wine, I was still in my wine study group. I could smell it and I knew exactly what it was and everything. Like, my nose has never been that good. And I can't get it back.
Oh, that's great. Isn't that
I
interesting?
would, I would have passed that exam in flying covers without ever having even tasted wine.
Oh,
My
that's
nose was
amazing.
that good.
Have a great one. All right, talk to you. Bye.
Bye.